Since you have spent like 30 years, what is your version of 4 Ps or 4 Cs?
Insight, innovation, and impact is what is the way to figuring out how to sort of build your business in rural.
Can you give an example how people use religious places to market
If
themselves?
you see Rajasthan, there is something called Khatu Sham. Khatu Sham Yatra बहुत ज़्यादा popular है. So there are pandals, there are places where they stay. So pain balm can promote by massaging their feet.
After COVID, or in these 2 3 years, what are the changes that you are observing?
There is another very important and very well-known campaign called Kan Khajura Station, Hindustan Unilever ने किया, where you create content, they will listen. It's entertainment as well as the brand content which is weaved together.
I was reading a report where it was mentioning that rural India is at around INR 55 lakh crore consumption as of now. There is another data point which says that 58% around people in rural India prefer premium FMCG than 42% in urban. Somebody who wants to build a social enterprise, what are 4 5 good spaces that someone can build? Hey everyone, this is Utkarsh and welcome to Tribex, where we chat and deep dive with exceptional folks who have paved their own ways to be a leader in their community or space. Today I have somebody who has been recognized as one of the most influential rural marketing professionals by CMO Asia and has led impactful rural marketing strategies for major brands like Britannia and Eureka Forbes. He is the CEO of Sure, a social enterprise dedicated to creating diversified income opportunities for rural women. With 30 years of experience in this space, he's super mentor to startups in agri-tech, sustainability, and social innovation. There's more to the introduction, but I'll keep it reserved for the conversation and curiosity. I'm so excited to for this communication, and without further ado, I welcome Prashant Mandke to Tribex. Welcome, Prashant.
Thank you, Utkarsh. Very happy to be on this platform and thanks for the invite.
So I met Prashant recently during a mentorship huddle of a startup, and we sort of had similar views on role of and importance of communication and positioning of a venture and a mission to be successful. And Prashant, it's a real pleasure to have you for the same. And on the same note, I would like to begin on a note that I think what we are going to discuss today is gonna be something which is not very much documented or not very much studied, because there are two parts of India. While we study India 1, India 2, India 3, India India that most of the media and most of the people forget is rural India, where 68% population, or the majority of India lives, which is the core of India, we say, right? So that India we really forget, which gives us the demand, which gives us the global presence, which via which all these FMCG companies comes and earns. We invest into their stocks and profits, but we normally don't know what happens there, how tactics, how marketing is done there, what kind of changes are being happening there after COVID and stuff like those. So I'm very excited for this communication and would like to hand over to you. What do you think? What are your opening thoughts? About the same.
I think rural India is very crucial. I mean, as you know, the data tells us that majority of India is in villages. To be precise, I think 638,000 villages across all the entire country, and out of which top states would be UP, Bihar, Maharashtra, erstwhile Andhra, now of course broken, Madhya Pradesh. So if you see, challenges in rural India, number one is the access, to products and services. And the second, very crucial aspect is the media reach, because typically marketeers, in categories like, rather the sectors like FMCG, heavily depend on ATL above the line, and for rural they depend on the BTL part.
Correct.
So media reach has been always a challenge, and the states which I mentioned, they are either below average or pretty much below average in terms of media reach, which is TV, print, radio. Of course, digital has made a change. The access part in terms of availability, if you see, I mean, this is a very, very important aspects. Now, I mean, one will say you get toothpaste and soaps in a shop in a village, but how does it reach there? What is the channel? Is where the key to that answer is, and how do you manage direct distribution? Can you reach out? Big challenge. So that's for more of FMCG, but the categories which are like appliances or few other categories where it's very difficult for them to reach out to the rural areas.
Correct.
You will never have a dealer selling appliances in a village.
Hmm.
Uh, and there are reasons for that. I'm not stretching this beyond this.
Mm-hmm.
The other aspect of rural is agriculture, where the agri input companies have been traditionally the rural marketeers for decades. I mean, it's 50, 60, 70 years. You will see that there's a man who is promoting pesticides and fertilizers. There's a method by which they do it. There are retail shops, not in the village, but nearby markets. So I would call honestly the agri, sector players as the real pioneers of rural marketing,
Hmm.
who know the game, how to reach out, how to crack the demand code. To be honest,
Hmm.
it's very very difficult, not that easy. Convincing a farmer, another aspect. I will touch upon some of these as we go along.
Hmm.
So the focus on rural has been there for more than 2 decades or 3 decades, I would say, in terms of, let's say, the FMCG focusing on it, some of the top FMCGs
Hmm.
trying to get into rural, maybe 20, 30 years back, some conscious initiatives taken. My observation is last about 15 or 20 years, these companies have also aligned their businesses to have rural verticals, which was not the case. You normally have sales, where the rural is an extension of certain clusters or beats. It is not separate. So that effort has gone in. People have been also hired to look at that. But the reason I'm saying FMCG is because one of the largest, penetrated, categories come under FMCG,
Hmm.
right?
That is
So one is that, the other is in terms of, I mean, aligning with the reality that rural demand is high,
correct.
is happening consciously with skill sets being sort of, I would say, work in progress for many, because rural exposure only gives you a lot of experience of how to go about doing rural. Nobody comes with ready knowledge except some of the top institutes, which are, like IRMA, the, flagged, very, very marquee institutes, who give you good, great sense in terms of what is a rural market. So I think I see a shift in terms of focus on rural. One, the need, because urban markets are very competitive. There is clutter. So how do you go deeper? How do you build your volumes? So that's where I feel there is a lot of interest in rural, serious interest in terms of aligning teams,
Mm-hmm.
serious in terms of marketing infra being built. When I say infra being built, nothing new. How do you leverage what is existing?
Correct.
That's a very very important aspect in rural. So you need to know what is there in rural, and in terms of infra. When I say infra, it is channel, it is certain infrastructure, like simply speaking, or even a petrol pump is an infrastructure
Correct.
which can be leveraged in a village or nearby, small town. So that is the case, I think, and I've been happy to be associated. I
Hmm.
mean, almost last 20 years I've been, doing, rural business. I mean, when I started, in 2005 into rural, building a business vertical from scratch. Then later on, moving to communications, where I work with an agency where we work with different brands, giving them solutions. And in this journey, uh, gathered a lot understanding in terms of various players in rural. So when you say rural, I mean, for some, it is not a market. So for some, it is a community. For a marketeer to understand the term community, it itself takes a little time, to be very frank. I mean, I took
Hmm.
some time.
Correct.
When you say community, you feel it is CSR, you feel it is some, donor-based programs. It is not the case. I mean, you need to align with the reality.
Correct.
So that's the situation, and I'm happy to see there's a great talent which is focusing on rural today. So interest from youth, interest from youngsters in rural is very high compared to what I've seen maybe 2 decades back.
Correct.
So let me pause here, Utkarsh, and I hope I've given a little sense in terms of how rural is,
Absolutely.
and just a
Absolutely.
few areas which are challenging in rural.
Absolutely. On a similar note, while I was working at Inc., I used to consult a non-profit called Community Pure Water. So I went to villages, talked to a lot of people. I was documenting their stories, understanding what challenges they have, what kind of stories can we use to create more awareness, how can we raise more funds, right? As a non-profit. And then I also went in very while I was in college. I always wanted to be in social entrepreneurship. I always wanted to build something, there. And I didn't set for any of the interviews. I only set for the non-profit which came to a college called Pradhan, which works. They have a very different set of a model. Back at that time, I didn't got approval of my parents, and it was very hard for me to convince them.
Mm,
But yes, I did my best, to lay my case. But yes, while I was, exploring around the same, I also went there with a group that used to educate, create education or create more sort of ways of collaboration for the people there. So they had their own model where they used to pick the eldest son of the sarpanch, used to educate them, and after 10-12 years they used to plant them back to create better education and opportunities in that place, right? And they used to do it in, there is very different way they operate, right? And I think all of us who are into marketing or who are around marketing or storytelling or whatever in the space, they think about 4 P's, right, as the, basic or
yeah.
the basis of how they think about anything or think about any marketing strategy or something, which is product, price, place, promotion, right? But since you have
Mm.
spent like 30 years, what is your version of 4 P's or 4 C's, or maybe some terms, you use to tell about or educate your members? This is what works. This is how you should look at a region.
So, Utkarsh, in fact, this has been um, the real challenge, for many people to figure this out, honestly. And I'll do my bit in terms of sharing my experience, the way I
Hmm.
see it. So, first is insights. Insights are extremely important, which will lead to problem statements. And this I'm referring with respect to any new innovations, ideas.
Hmm.
So again, as I said, the next is innovation, which will, be a solution. So insight-led innovation is extremely crucial, which will finally result into impact for community. So I would call it, insight, innovation, and impact is what is the way to go about, figuring out how to sort of build your business, in rural.
And inside, what can you refer some examples on insights that you got while you were working with other people or with Sure also, and which lead to a profound impact?
Way back, when I started my journey, I had a very humbling experience. If you allow me, I can just quote that.
Sure.
What gave me sort of you can say, a wake up call, because I was, always in urban sales, marketing, business, etc.
Mm.
So when I started rural and I traveled down to the, villages and urban slums as well, because urban slums are equal to something like rural, except the media, reach is higher.
Correct.
So I remember one of the projects which we did was funded by USAID, and it was around something called, diarrheal deaths, which are were very high. This is 20 years back in the state of Uttar Pradesh. So there was fund was focused on understanding how do we correct this. Okay, and the first thing was diarrhea is because of water. When you consume impure water, you are likely to have diarrhea. So
Correct.
one aspect was building awareness around drinking safe water.
Hmm.
The second part was if you have diarrhea, then how do you treat? So there is something called zinc, which is important in this treatment.
Hmm.
So what the project was called, and this was coined by the lead agency NGO which was doing this, called Puzen, Pouzn. So
Hmm.
those days, Puzen was like, we used to first say, what is Puzen? And then we understood, we were explained that this is the reason we are calling it Puzen. Okay, so what we did was primarily advocacy, where I say advocacy, you have to talk to women in the slums, women in the villages, and tell them that, look, drink safe water. Okay, this was done through, SHG route, where, this entire advocacy piece, they were trained, and there were solutions positioned. So it was not like selling a particular product or promoting a company.
Correct.
It was like, chlorine tablets which you can use. It can be just boiling water. It
Hmm.
can be using a purifier. It can be, something like that. Okay,
Hmm.
so the choice is for customer what they want to do.
Correct.
And when I was doing this side project, and I still remember, I can quote this. And there is in Lucknow, we were working in urban slums, and there is one कटरेल नाला आई डोंट नो वेदर स्टिल एग्जिस्ट
Hmm.
तो नाला होता है तो मानसून में वहां पे पानी आते हैं तो शैंटीज निकल जाती है मानसून खत्म होने के बाद द शैंटीज अगेन कम हो गए
What are shanties?
शैंटीज इज लाइक अ झुग्गी झोपड़ी वाला जो
Acha, okay.
होता है वो the structures are not all temporary. So
Acha.
I remember meeting a woman who was a widow. She had a small kid and she was using a water purifier worth rupees 2000 those days, 2006 or 7.
Oh, wow.
And I was shocked. I said, how? The story behind that was uh, she had lost her husband because of illness, got into debt. Okay, वो कर्जा जो होता है वो बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाता है उनके लिए
Hmm.
वापस करना. So as a precaution, she had bought this through a loan, which was microfinance loan, and that's exactly when I realized what two square meals mean for all of us. We have it. छत है,
Hmm.
गाड़ी है,
Hmm.
and we still want more. I said, why not? I have a two bed, I want a three-bed flat. I have a three bed, I want a penthouse. I have X car, I want a better car.
Correct.
So when I saw that, it really hit me. And the reason I'm, explaining this is because that's exactly where I realized what the reality is, in rural India, in urban slums, and how they struggle. And the courage of taking a decision, is something, and particularly woman, because she was a lady who was a widow, as I said,
Hmm.
really, impressed me. And that's why I still remember that story, which is almost 18 or 20 years back, which I encountered. And that's when, I realized. So insight again is, I mean, sorry to stretch this beyond, the brief, but it was important for me to sort of say that what is the
Yeah, yeah.
insight out of this?
Hmm.
Insight is it's not something where, affordability, can I afford it? No. Insight is, I mean, I want my, family to be healthy. Simple. I've, suffered. Uh, Related to that, let me just explain a bit more. Typically when you say water, drinking water, the golden benchmark is boiling,
Hmm.
correct? I mean, you say that pani ubal ke piyo, then you are, fine. The water is, safe to drink. Um, the question is, how do you challenge that, or can you challenge that? See, if we are challenging my own
Hmm.
basic, golden benchmarks, if I am the potential customer, I may not be open for any further communication. It's as simple as that.
Correct.
So how do you go about, you know, handling that communication? Telling them that what is important is really, something which is to be figured out. What solutions matter? So that's where, I mean, I'll pause here. I mean, there are many examples on different categories, but this was something which was on top of my mind when you said
Yeah, I
insights.
think totally relatable that you mentioned is that uh, before starting anything, you need to talk to people, and that's how you get insights. You need to go with a basic script or very basic stuff, and then try to understand what are their stories, what are their problems. And I think I was working with, as I was mentioning, community pure water on a safe water initiative, which you were also mentioning. That even traveling 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers can change a lot of things. And when I got to know about the same, that to get water from 5 kilometers away can mean that a child cannot study for a life, because it is somebody's responsibility to go and fetch the water. Normally it comes to either child, majorly woman of the house. It may be a woman child, or it may be the lady of the house. They have to go and fetch the water, right? And it may mean that they might get other physical problems like arthritis, carrying the heavy load on their shoulders. Water may dry it up, which is nearby, so they have to stand in lines. They have to go farther away also in summers. So it may mean a huge economical impact, because that particular woman who is going and fetching water, she also had opportunity to earn, right? Which was not able to, and it's a generational decline of wealth in those areas where water is not available. So I think water or basic thing like these affects rural communities or community which are deprived at large. And to the point you were saying कि सबकी सबको एक एक सबको कुछ और एक चाहिए होता है, टू की जगह 3 BHK, एंड सबकी नीड्स होती हैं. So I read a small शेर और नज्म by जावेद अख्तर जी on that
Mhm.
सबका खुशी सबका खुशी से फासला एक कदम है, हर घर में बस एक ही कमरा कम.
You're right. Like, it's like being happy with what you have, and it's a very different attitude and approach. Not easy to acquire, in
So
fact.
abundance has no limits.
Yeah.
Whatever you have in people who have things in urban setting, it has no limits, right? And in fact, after having those things as well, you may lack basic things like clean air to breathe in, right? So sometimes, even if you are very much privileged, you might lack the basic necessity of a human being on this planet. So I think that whenever we compare urban and rural, these contrast or these realities hit first, right?
Yeah.
These are the things that we normally enjoy, or we normally consider as waste, or we don't consider ourselves as privileged enough, while we also lack some
Yeah.
things in our life, but there are larger things that these people also lack. And then there are things that people in rural setting they enjoy, maybe good food, or maybe good lifestyle or whatever, but they lack basic stuff like water, right, which can change. And on onto that, I think after COVID things got changed a lot, because COVID uh, emphasized everyone to be digital, uh, because there were restricted movements, and people have to communicate to each other. So there was wide adoption. Then the geo movement happened, and there was wide adoption of internet at large in India, right? And that's how we became very big on digital transactions as a nation, right? So after COVID, or in these 2 3 years, what are the changes that you are observing in terms of uh, what are the lifestyle changes that are happening? For example, we have seen a lot of video content that is coming from that part of India, where which was not non-existent before that, because access to media or access to content creation was only possible for people in urban setting. Right now, we have
Yeah.
it's very much possible for somebody to record a podcast while being in a remote village of India, right? So it's very much possible. So what are the trends and behavioral shift? While the reality remains same, the access to media is now there, but in what kind of media is there, and how it has changed? What are other things that have changed? What are your thoughts on this and observations on this?
So one very strong, thing which happened is use of mobile for meetings, different platforms. So most of our women have a smartphone,
Mm-hmm.
During COVID, we used to have meetings where they attended meetings on different platforms. Farmers attended meetings from their farms. So this is a big shift, in terms of earlier it was like having a meeting, you get everybody somewhere and then you talk to them. So I think the biggest change I see is that these men and women in rural are very comfortable handling a handset and handling various applications or functionalities within that.
So meetings, you mean what? Now they can do a WhatsApp meeting. How do you engage?
So let's say we do it on a Gmeet or a Zoom, so they have those platforms, and typically we have meetings where we talk to them about certain innovations and how do you take it to the farmers, or we talk to farmers directly to figure out what are the pain points, etc. So all these aspects which earlier used to be physical have moved to digital. Of course, the physical is not eliminated, neither you can eliminate. But I think what makes a lot of sense is, even surveys. So we conduct huge amount of surveys which are all mobile based surveys, and they are very, very, very easily able to answer those. Now, of course, it is a function of how many questions, what options, XYZ,
Hmm.
but they are comfortable in that. So data gathering or insights gathering has become much more easier compared to what it was, before COVID, or, I would call it maybe 10 years back also. So that is one big shift happening. The second part, and where I have experienced myself, when I also conduct trainings at times, not very regularly, but whenever I'm on field, with these women who are, let's say, farmers, and they are selling their produce. So there are certain modules which we deliver.
Mm-hmm.
You will be, I mean, I'm sure people know, they're astonished to know that they are so far ahead in using WhatsApp.
Hmm.
The way they use WhatsApp for marketing is fantastic. And one of the ladies during a training session came to me saying, first day she was silent, the second day she just came over and said, "Sir, this is what I do." She had opened her WhatsApp account. She had shown me her status. Okay, then few others followed saying, "This is how we sell." So in the status, they are displaying their produce,
Hmm.
or if it is milk business, they are putting up rates. Okay, or they are putting videos of farm produce where the lady is standing in the farm and saying, "Look, this is all it is." So I mean, they are very, very sharp and intelligent. I would say they know, once they understand how to use a particular medium, they are using it.
No, I think I quite agree with the same because I have a friend who has a agri-tech, or not agri-tech, but he has a marketplace where he sells machineries used in farms. So he puts a lot of these WhatsApp status, and I keep asking him. I have asked him कि भाई
Hmm.
क्यों लगाते हो ये इतने status? Do people actually buy from it? So the answer is yes. People do buy
Yes,
from WhatsApp status, and he also shoots this random videos, of using somebody is using machinery, or hey, these videos are valuable for people because they are not explaining any feature or
yeah,
something, right? But people buy because farmers see कि भाई ये machine कैसी काम कर रही है, कैसी दिख रही है, and
correct.
कैसा आउटपुट आ रहा है, and all of those things. So these things actually work. You're absolutely right, and on that part. And I would like to bring upon that key, since you're talking about surveys and trainings, क्या आप 101 बता सकते हो, मतलब how does everything functions, what is the whole hierarchy and structure like? For example, when you were at Britannia, or you were at a, now you are at Sure, you're leading your own practice, but when you are working with brands, or brands working with Sure, right? They are also your clients as well. What is the whole structure like? Like how does, is there a marketing brief that is there, and then how does it translate to on ground activity, hiring of the people, then people going to various places, doing surveys?
Yeah,
How does it overall, how does it functions?
I'll give you an example where we're working for the brands where there is a brief always. I mean, we are talking about marketing campaign. There has to be a brief.
Correct.
with very clear stated what has been done in the past, what has been the challenge, etc. And what we have done at Shore is we have a very different way of creating awareness, okay, and moving people from awareness to consideration. This is exactly where I think FMCG, trying to push, their target audience.
Hmm.
So there are typical traditional ways where van campaigns, as everybody knows, FMCG has been doing huge van campaigns. So when I say van campaign, it's a van and man, where a van with supervisor and two, three promoters go into a village, mobilize people. Ideally, the target group is defined, So in terms of, let's say, men 25 to 45, X occupation, XYZ, or women, particular age demographic, etc., is all there. And
What
do
can
make
you
up.
help me break down this van camping? Van camping means it can
No,
be on a cycle also.
no, not cycle. It is typically could be a small vehicle, which is a four-wheeler, where it could be Tata Ace or it can be bigger vehicle like a
Okay.
Eicher,
Hmm.
where you are doing the panels. You create a fabricated structure at the back where there is brands display, and there is a space at the back where you normally load luggage, where you create some kind of an engagement. So promoters go, they play games, they talk about it. वो माइक लेके बात हो रही है, ऑडियो बज रहा है, लोगों को इनवाइट किया जा रहा है to participate, whatever it is. So that's
Okay.
typically the van campaign, which comes under BTL, below the line, where for most of the FMCGs have been doing it for decades and decades.
Hmm.
Has been the case. But in one of these brands, and I don't want to name specific companies and the brands because of
Sure.
confidentiality, FMCG, where the challenge has been all this was done, but the sales didn't pick up in that market. Okay, now
Mhm.
sales obviously don't pick up immediately, but over a period of time, because the way it is, you do sampling, trials, and
And how do the
repeated
sales happen?
communication.
Yeah, for example, I'm a consumer, and there is a new shampoo or there is a new, let's say, coconut oil, cold pressed coconut oil that I, as a FMCG brand, have launched. It's priced around somewhere around 40, 50 rupees or whatever. And there is a van camping that happens, and then there are some
So
brand campaigns.
van campaign will not sell; they will only do sampling. So they might
Okay.
hand out sachets saying that, look, use this. The sales will happen from the
And these
general
campaigns are
trade,
like
which
games that play this game. If you win, then you get sashes, right?
no sachets. Normally trials are for all, but games are played to I mean, then you weave in the brand communication to when you play a game. Let's say you want to do a question answer, you create a some format where people will answer those questions relating to the category, and then you talk about the brand. So that's how this whole thing is
And there
conducted.
must be some
Sales
prizes
is,
that they.
yeah, yeah. So that all that happens, but
Okay. And what after that?
sales happens at the counter, retail counter in the village. Sales don't happen during the campaign. There are campaigns where sales have also been conducted, which is discounted sale at times. I
Okay.
mean, I've also handled some of those where we did that, but largely it is creating awareness and
And retail
generating
counter is a
trials.
kirana shop basically.
किराना शॉप यानी वो जनरल ट्रेड में आता है, किराना शॉप से बिकता है. तो इसमें क्या
And they
होता है,
don't
ये जो
advertise that
सब,
kirana shop in collaboration, or is there any association?
how many you can advertise? Just imagine the numbers. So what they do is they might do some branding at the shop, which could be simply, sometimes dealer board, depending on the category of that outlet. It
Correct.
could be anything else, creating visibility for the products where you keep fixtures, or you want to create, जो लड़ी टंगी होती है ना शॉप में, वो ऐसे लंबी वाली लड़ी होती है जिसमें sachets होते हैं वो
Correct.
सारे.
Correct. Correct.
So that is a visibility, you create visibility. आप जाके पहले वो देखोगे, you
Correct.
know, then there could be something where, you see the brand. So all that is done at the retail counter, but then there is a limitation. The retail counters are humongous in number, if you imagine.
Correct.
So all this is happening, but uh, uh, there is again, challenge there. So when you mobilize people, it's not exactly where you may not all of them may not be the target audience.
Hmm.
There'll be kids hanging around. If you want to talk to women, there might be men around. Okay, so अगर मुझे outreach कहते हैं इसे, जो outreach मुझे करनी है village में, I need to reach out to certain number of people in a village.
Hmm.
That is, compromised. Because obviously you have no control,
Hmm.
right? And I mean, who is doing it? The supervisor is trying to do all that mobilization. तो उसको तो जानते नहीं है लोग. He is not from the village,
Correct.
right? So what happens is, there is lack of trust and credibility in the person who is mobilizing, and there is, I would call it not necessarily all the TG is relevant or the audience is relevant.
So
It is
normally,
more effective.
for a brand that I was referring, or you can refer, what do you assume in your campaign, matlab where you have a Saki who is trained by you, to sell certain products, tell the story, and then people select the people whom she want to tell the story and then do it. What is the cost for it? And when you do all of this operation to the brand.
See, the way this whole thing happens is our Sakis are trained. Now there are two aspects. One is sales,
Hmm.
okay, and what I explained just now was marketing. There is no sales happening,
Hmm.
but you're creating awareness, you're generating trials.
Correct.
So sales, as far as marketing is concerned, there is a brief. We train them in terms of what to speak. So there is a spiel, what she should speak. There are collaterals developed, which will aid her, the overall effort in terms of, we call it advocacy, brand advocacy, as simple as
Correct.
that.
Hmm.
And the method by which they do it, what is the duration for which a session should happen, how many should be, what should be the outreach in a particular village. So we mark that out, and they are trained, and then supervisors monitor all this. Okay, we also have a digital platform. We have an app where reporting is done. So we know, all geotag happens, the photographs come in, um,
Is
everything
it a
comes in.
popular app or you have developed your own?
No, we have developed our own app. So we have our own app. So this is on the marketing piece. On the sales front, we largely deal with impact products only, which is, we promote natural farming, which is, climate resilient agriculture where no chemicals are used. So there are biofertilizers, biopesticides, then there is vermibed, vermicompost, these things.
Hmm.
Then on the farm tools side, we promote renewable energy, which is a large piece in terms of sales, where solar powered farm tools like, sprayer or even the fodder growing machine, is solar powered, where, you feed
Correct.
cattle. Then there are post harvest solutions, which are solar dryers or solar refrigerators.
And why this model is there that you only do, what are
So,
your learnings on that?
see, the reason we do this is when this whole company started, the idea was we work for women empowerment, number one,
Mhm.
where empowerment happens only through economic route, which means she has to earn. So we have to enhance her income,
Correct.
number one. Number two, we are focused on climate. Okay, and we are focused on women. So there are three very important aspects, which is our framework. Woman, which is gender, uh, income is livelihood, and third is climate. So we are working at the intersection of gender, livelihood, and climate. That is our philosophy. That is our view, and we do not move away from it.
No, I was talking about why not do sales for FMCG as well.
The reason is our focus is what is not available in the village, get it to the village. you know so make those products and services available. So FMCG is available. You go to any village kirana shop, you will have all brands, be it toothpaste, be it soaps, be it shampoos. So
And they have
availability
their
is
own
there,
supply chain as well. You
and
don't
they
have
have
to.
supply chain, whether it is direct supply to the retailer through
Correct.
distributor, or it might be wholesale. So we don't add value. So we only
Correct.
are very conscious about where we add value. So for example, if it is, we work with a lot of enterprises which are startups to provide market access. When I say that, I'm saying, let's say a sprayer which is developed, which is solar powered.
Mm-hmm.
Now, startups have a budget constraint. Startups have, a lot of other challenges. So we work with them, saying that, look, we will do this, and we do it on a margin basis. So there are margins, and we are typically then, promoting it. We also get marketing budgets,
Correct.
because creating awareness is a big task for a new category, and
Correct.
it happens through Sakhi, who is trusted, who is trusted by the community, and they know that this lady is doing something good, and she is bringing something good for us.
Correct.
So they don't look at her as a seller.
Correct.
It's typically where you see that person coming and you run away. Not the scenario with us. They want to listen to her because she is able to explain what is the benefit, and that benefit is either in terms of income increase, yield increase, cutting losses,
Mm.
reducing drudgery. All these aspects are covered. That's why even post harvest we are into that solution where reducing losses. That itself adds to their income. You do that.
So, Prashant, just to understand the overall landscape of how marketing is done in rural India, so this is one model that is there. I think it has been there for some time. Yours is much more focused on the three aspects: which is gender, livelihood, and climate, which is a new aspect or a new way of doing it. Uh, but there has been traditional ways via which a pharmaceutical or these skincare brands have been working where they have someone who present their products, and there must be other ways also. So briefly, can you just give a gist of it? What are different ways? This is one way where you have a person from the same village. uh, Yours is,
Yeah.
in your case it's a woman. In other cases it can be a man as well. uh, I think Sahara, when they built their large enterprise, they also used a very similar model to sell loans or I think similar stuff. So, what kind of activities at large, brands undertake, to reach out to people? One is, of course, having same person from the same village to talk about, and what these persons are. Are they teachers? Are they sarpanch? Or are they, how do you identify these people? The two layers of the question. One is what kind of other tactics are there, and then going deeper into how do you identify the right people to deliver that tactic.
So I mean, there are currently influencer related, efforts which are happening, and
Okay.
influencer in rural areas. So in rural, typically, many times it is perceived that Sarpanch is the influencer. It is not always the case. Teachers, yes, they do make a difference. Progressive farmers, yes, of course, as far as agri is concerned, they do make a difference. But there are categories where youth drives demand. For example, a mobile handset. I mean, it's like the youth in the household will suggest his father, keep up, Papa ye le lijiye, ye acha phone hai.
Correct.
So you have to understand the category influencer, right? If it is agriculture, not necessarily a rich farmer, but a farmer with an open mind who is trying different things is, somebody who is trusted. Saying it's not necessarily that the farmer has to be a 20 acre or 50 acre farmer, but of course they make a difference, but still. So each, category wise,
As are
you
different.
define it. Yeah, they are different.
For example, to
And
sell a skincare product, a woman who is a teacher would be relevant.
in fact, there are beauticians. There are small beautician shops, salons, which
Correct.
are not salons, it's shop, where, in fact, some of the brands have already done this. They have tied up with them
Hmm.
and they have placed products.
Correct.
तो वहाँ उस शॉप में ladies garments, lingerie, all these cosmetics are sold.
Hmm.
Typically because a woman comes there for whatever she wants, the treatment.
Hmm.
So those kind of things, have been tried, in fact, and it works very effectively because then a woman talking to woman about cosmetic makes more
Correct.
sense than
And in
you know.
case of agriculture product, a progressive farmer always works, right? I think these are the two biggest categories
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
that are there, right?
yeah. That's right.
And any
That's
other
right.
models that exist otherwise?
See, there are influencer models where, I mean, I've seen. You create influencer videos, stock bites, etc. at the village level consciously by identifying them and promoting it, on
And
whatever
you
channels.
create these videos on YouTube?
No, we don't do that. We have videos, but it is more related to training, where
Not
we
you,
use
but
training.
other
So
people.
no, no,
Other people.
there are
So,
others who are doing it. Others, like some, real known, well-known agencies have done this influencer marketing for rural, where you identify the right, influencer,
mhm.
create, videos. And nowadays, I think Insta is popular, Facebook's, whatever, channels, digital channels can be used, YouTube, they are using it. But I do not know to what extent it is successful, and the effort in identification of influencers and creating this content, I think is quite high.
Yeah,
तो
definitely.
वो थोड़ा सा इक्वेशन बैठना चाहिए
So
in
that is
terms
one
of
model that
spends.
has come up, right? Success we are not
Yeah.
aware. What are other models?
So the other models are more to do with, as I said, very, very localized on ground promotions, where there are melas, there are weekly hearts,
Mm-hmm.
जहाँ पे promotion होता है. Then there are religious, places जहाँ पे यात्रा जात्रा जो कहते हैं होते हैं. तो
Mm-hmm.
वहाँ पे brands की involvement बहुत ज़्यादा हो गई है. I mean, if you see Rajasthan, there is something called Khatu Sham.
Correct,
खाटू
correct.
श्याम यात्रा बहुत ज्यादा पॉपुलर है. अगर आप महाराष्ट्र में आओ तो पंढरपुर. Similarly, there are localized.
And how do you
Uh,
leverage? Can you give an
yeah.
example how people use religious places to market themselves? Like, do they
So,
use
for example,
hoardings,
in
or how do
in
they?
in पंढरपुर क्या होता है वहां पे, जब डिवोटीज आते हैं, दे आर इन मिलियंस एंड मिलियंस. So there are pandals, there are places where they stay. So, they typically pain balm can promote by massaging their feet. That's what I've seen happening. Acidity हो रही है तो उसके लिए कुछ जो होता है प्रोडक्ट वो भी बेचा जाता है.
Hmm.
Then there can be, various categories which connect. It's not like suddenly, I mean, soaps can be promoted through simple, you keep soap bars, if they want to to take bath. So they try to connect with, what I call it, the needs of a particular target group during their, whole day. I call it, it's like life in a day of my consumer. So when do you need what? You have to map that. Okay, and then connect that particular, you
Any good
create an
examples,
engagement.
like you
Engagement.
talked about this pain balm by massaging? Any
Yeah.
other good examples, or maybe the pain balm example? Because how do you actually do it?
So there are then, below the line agencies who are given the brief. They deploy their own supervisory staff
Correct.
to handle this. So they are, they do it. I mean, then they are supposed to report, how many people you would have sort of massaged.
Hmm.
So it's like outreach number बहुत important है. So अगर 1 million वहाँ पे devotees आ रहे हैं तो आप कितना target करोगे?
It's a free activity that is done, right?
It is free. There is nothing chargeable, nothing free. Like I also remember the mosquito repellent was another great example which was
Okay.
done where they stay. There are pandals and there are like वो धर्मशाला type होता है जहाँ पे सारे लोग रहते हैं.
Hmm.
तो वो mosquito repellent वहाँ पे डेमो भी दिया जाता है और वहाँ पे यूज भी किया जाता है.
Acha.
So it's like a trial and demos are very important for the consumer to get a fix कि भाई ये चलता कैसे है,
Acha.
इसका
Okay.
इफेक्ट है कि नहीं है.
Hmm.
So ये सब होता है वहाँ पे.
Nice, nice. I think these are some very good points. I think in the last half hour that we have discussed, how you work, and I've taken a lot of notes on that. So I think number one is, of course, influencer-led models. Just to recapitulate what we have discussed is influencer-led models. Now the influencer-led models have come to digital, Instagram, and all of those.
Yeah.
Success we are not aware. So I don't know what is happening there, but yes, traditionally what is done there is you basically pick a farmer, progressive farmer, or a teacher, or a beautician, or somebody connected to that category, and educate them, train them, and then they sort of act as a influencer or help them people to move from awareness to consideration set as you are telling about. So that is model number one. Model number two is you advertise yourself where people are there in large numbers, so that you have a direct one-on-one with people. It may be a mela, it may be a religious place, and glad that you referred to great places where I think the lot of movement is happening is Pandharpur and Khatu Shyam. Of course, that is very true, and they do this via different agencies that are there, and they sort of report to them. What are other any other ways that are left, or these are the two three big ways that are there?
These are the ones. In fact, ये कुंभ and अर्ध कुंभ में बहुत ज़्यादा होता है. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's a huge, brand presence there.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some real iconic campaigns which have happened in the past,
Mm-hmm.
which have leveraged these melas. There is another very important and I mean very well-known campaign called Kan Khajura Station जो Hindustan Unilever ने किया था. They created kind of a radio station. या वो बहुत आप गूगल कर लो सब मिल जाएगा उस पे. फैंटास्टिक कैंपेन वेर यू क्रिएट कंटेंट which they want to they will listen. It's entertainment as well as the brand content which is weaved together. So those things have really worked wonders, in fact,
Correct,
and
correct.
given brand a lot of traction.
Totally, totally. I think what you have just mentioned, I think, is sort of a framework is trials where you can do these in yatras or large gatherings. Then you have to look into retailer loyalties, that your retailers are loyal to you. They display your product in the right fashion in priority. There has to be visibility of the product on the shop, be it your branding or be it paintings. There are different methods to do that. Then you also have to make sure that you prioritize the market right, lower income, high income, and that according to data points that are available. And there are some initiatives that you can take, which you refer as religious places where you can place a product. And I think it's we have come to an end, although not end, but yes, uh, uh, I was reading a report where it was mentioning that rural India is at around INR 55 lakh crore consumption as of now, and it's growing faster than urban. It's actually at 7.6%, and urban is at 5.7% for FMCG specifically. So it's growing faster. And then there is another data point which says that 58% around people in rural India prefer premium FMCG than 42% in urban, which is specifically around that they prefer larger packs now for value
Yeah.
saving and for all those things. So I think FMCG or the rural India space has become more exciting now, for people to get into. According to you, what are four, five? Because you talk to a lot of people who want to get into there. What are four, five good spaces where you think that somebody who wants to build a business, somebody who wants to build a social enterprise, what are four, five good spaces that someone can build?
I think one is agriculture itself, and then agri-tech. These are the two which are buzzing currently. My only, request to those who are thinking about it is frame the right problem statement and then pursue your innovation or idea rather than idea first and then trying to validate, which is not, honestly the way, it will succeed. And I've seen this happening. I've been also associated with incubators with like, under Atal Innovation Center and
Correct.
the DD, under DST, etc., where at times people come with an idea and then try to validate, saying that how good it is. No, first the problem statement,
Correct.
and that should come from community. Number one. So agri-tech obviously is there, and then there are specialized, products like I'm sure you know the millet. is buzzing, so people have developed millet chuda, millet chips and whatnot, cookies, etc.
Correct.
So those do make a difference, because I think there are many who are health conscious today and they look at how can I, change my diet choices, snacking choices, etc. So that is a good space. Uh, Other area is in terms of renewable energy. I think a lot of work can be done in terms of creating options for farmers to adopt, and in that particularly cold chain where there are post-harvest losses,
Mm.
how can you arrest that or reduce that and make solutions affordable? Because we are aware of those. I've also been, interacting with those who have those solutions, but making it affordable, number one, and making a model which is not necessarily always, sell your product. Can that be a service, pay per use? You
Mm.
know, Recently, one of the hurdles I suggested this to, one of the startups where said, think about it. I mean, then of course your P&L has to be totally different, because then you have to provide for all the, capital investment, etc. But if it can grow market, you want to try that. Look at it that way, because there is a lot where people expect farmer to buy. भाई मेरा
Correct.
प्रोडक्ट खरीदो,
Correct.
लेकिन अगर वो यूज करना है तो उसकी यूजेज पे पर यूज वाला मॉडल हो सकता है क्या? एक्सप्लोर, इट्स पॉसिबल। आई मीन पर्टिकुलरली कोल्ड चेन, जहाँ पे जो पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट वाला जो होता है उसमें,
Correct.
क्योंकि the price tags are very high. And other space which I feel, and we are trying to also do something there, is health. In health, I mean, I've also been trying to understand how can it be done. Last few years, in fact 3 4 years, I've also interacted with innovators. So there are three things which I see in health. One is, simply, speaking, the primary consultations. There are platforms which are doing primary consultations, video calls, audio,
Mm.
whatever.
Mm.
Then the other area is diagnostics. How can you make diagnostics affordable, faster, and closer to village?
Correct.
When I say diagnostics, it's simply like a blood test करनी है या फिर आपको ECG लेना है, तो वो कैसे हो सकता है?
Mm.
So there are innovators in that space, but I think we still, don't have the final solutions. And third is medicine delivery. So currently we are working on medicine delivery where, I'm not talking about generic, how, you go about doing it. But if we are a prescribed medicines, the same brand, making it available at the doorstep at a discounted price.
Mm.
So we're piloting it. So my thought is, if we can get more innovations in health space, we are really looking for taking it to the community. In any of these areas or anything beyond that.
Got it.
Uh, so those are the spaces which I personally feel are impact ones, and we are hunting for great innovations. Where we could partner with them. Right from concept stage, because we have done that, co-created products in the past, and
Mm.
also done the go-to-market, being channel also. So we are open for that.
Awesome. So I think these are 4 5 good spaces that you mentioned, and quite relevant to anybody listening to this. And I think for we have come to end close of the conversation. I think it's been
Yeah.
45 50 minutes of the discussion that we already did. And I think, Prashant, this has been a masterclass in seeing markets as human fabric, which essentially is the sense of rural India, which is still alive. That you need to be there, listen to them, gather insights, then come up with the strategy, and not play by the book, right? It's sort of a thing. And you have given us just not just the stories but frameworks to see the incredible potential and profound complexity of rural India. And thank you for the wisdom that you shared on the Tribex. And I think it would definitely help people listening to this. And that's the whole objective, to bring these conversations to life. So thank you so much, Prashant, for being on the show.